Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to the Fanspeak Network and another episode of Friends of Best Ball. I am, of course, joined by my neighbor and Jim Waller, and we are going to talk to him about his Pitbull win, all sorts of good best ball stuff, and do a live draft in just 1 minute. That's right. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to Friends of Best Ball. I am Meg. You can find me on Twitter, of course, at Megs08DFS. And you can find Jim on Twitter at on Twitter, you are another handle. This is your...
I'm at Jim Waller Jr. on Twitter. The wall with ones is my underdog handle.
Okay, so this is the underdog handle. Yep. So I am joined by Jim Waller, and he actually lives here in Baltimore in my neighborhood. Didn't even realize until we were both on Neil Orfield streams separately, which is pretty random. But he is the reigning Pitbull champ, won the $75 Pitbull, took it down for $120K last year. So excited to talk to him about that and a few other best ball things before we jump into a BBM5 draft. So Jim, congratulations, almost a year later on your big win. I want to hear all about that. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Happy Friday. Always good to kick off the weekend with some best ball drafts. So that's it's great to hear. Fan of the show. I think I started watching around the time we were both on Neil's stream and realized we were both in the same neighborhood. So happy to come on and support. And thanks for the congratulations. I'll never get tired of thinking about that one until probably, this year around week 17 when I hope there's another sweat going on. But I think it was pretty cool. This is now my fourth year playing best ball. And it was the first year that I had like a good week 17 sweat. There was one of the other years I had like one week 17 team, and it was, pretty quickly it was like, okay, this team is not winning me any kind of substantial money. But watching, a couple of the guys pop off early and realizing that like for the rest of the day, you're going to have a pretty good sweat going on. And honestly, it wasn't until it was New Year's Eve. It wasn't until halfway through the day where I realized like, okay, like I have a real shot at winning this if the right things break. So that's always fun. I mean, that's what we're thinking about when we're all drafting hundreds of best ball teams this time of year is like 99.9% of our teams are going to be complete dust. And we're just hoping we have one or two that are going to make the sweat worthwhile, So it was cool to see that realized in real time. I hope, I think we seem to be seeing a lot of people who ingest content having success and people in the community having success and winning big tournaments. So
and hope
that continues. Love, talking about success with other folks. So always great.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to hear more about your sweat. You kind of told us. Was there there was basically a moment. Was there a moment after I guess it's so fractured now with the way the end of the season is. It's, on so many different days. It feels like I'm trying to think how week 17 was last year. But so was there a moment on Sunday where you kind of knew okay, this is live?
So this team was really interesting because I was pretty convinced it was going to die in week 15. Before that Eagles, it was the Eagles Monday night game. And it was I ran because it was a $75 team. I was in first going into the Monday night game. So I that day when I was not working, I was putting together a spreadsheet of all the different outcomes, who I needed to watch in Monday Night Football for this team to survive. And there were plenty of Hurts teams and AJ Brown teams and other stuff that I needed to dodge. And at the last second, Jalen Hurts has the ball. He's trying to throw downfield. The guy behind me only is a couple points behind, and Jalen Hurts throws a pick and the game ends and my team survives.
I was going to say, I needed that pick for a couple BBM to get to the semifinals. I was so excited about that. So I know the exact interception you're talking about that helped me as well, because I was being chased in BBM. And then ultimately, unfortunately, those semifinals team did not make it to the finals. But I know what you mean by it's a sweat in even every round too. Yeah.
Right. And I was sweating JSN caught the touchdown. And if Metcalf had been the one catching the touchdown, the team would have also died to a different team. So that week was honestly the sweatiest. Wild. Week 16, which was the Christmas week. That my team kind of just like charged on through, and there was never really a sweat. Like, I'm a Ravens fan, so I was watching that Christmas
Day night game. Yeah.
For the fact, so I honestly wasn't even looking at my underdog stuff because I didn't want spoilers on the Ravens game until after I got a chance to watch it.
Okay.
At midnight, so that week was pretty smooth sailing.
Did you have any Ravens on this team on the winning?
So Lamar Jackson, who threw for 5 touchdowns that day, and Isaiah Likely, who scored 2 touchdowns, who was my 4th tight end on the team.
Okay.
So one of the interesting things was I got to round 17, and I remember drafting the team because I didn't draft that many Pitbulls. I only drafted 5 of them. And this one I just hated my round 17 options, and my only Lamar correlation was OBJ, who ended up not doing anything. And I randomly just took Isaiah Likely as a 4th tight end, and I went back and checked, and I only took 4 tight end builds in like 2 of my teams. So it's kind of ironic.
Wow, that's pretty cool too. Yeah.
That I needed, and also like when Andrews went down, he was huge leverage and helped.
And it wasn't like an Andrews handcuff. You just had Likely. Okay.
I just had Likely. So that was pretty cool.
People do that with like Andrews Likely and somebody. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I went out to a bar to watch that game that day because it's Ravens-Dolphins game, and that started exploding, which I knew was good because I had Lamar. Lamar exploding, I mean, I wasn't too crazy about it. Prior to that, it had CeeDee Lamb, so he had gone off the night before, but he was incredibly high owned even in that final, even though it's a small field. So there was him. The Lamar stuff was kind of exciting. The Likely second touchdown is when I was like, okay, like we're kind of cooking with some steam, but I wasn't in first yet. And then like out of the corner of my eye, I noticed that Devontae Adams had scored like a second touchdown, and it was like, okay, we're really on at this point. And then, like, I had New Year's Eve plans, and, like, I'm, like, kind of watching, and Kenneth Walker is, like, scoring some points, and I was like, okay, this is, like, at that point, I was, like, top 5. And then George Pickens had to play as well, so I'm, like, watching that go on.
Okay.
And at that point, like, I started moving into the lead, and we were actually at a dinner party.
For New Year's? On New Year's?
For New Year's, like, so friends were making, like, a dinner. And so I'm like,
oh my God, I don't know how you socialize. I don't think I could have socialized.
I'm like staying quiet about it. And like my girlfriend's husband, like sort of knew what was going on. So he had like the TV set up for me. And he's like making dinner and he's like, man, just like, don't even feel bad. Just like go sit in the living room by yourself. Like you need to watch what's going on. And so we ended up watching.
That's good that he got it. I'm sure your girlfriend
for sure. He ended up watching, we ended up watching like the Vikings-Packers game and like, there were a couple of.
Did you have any Vikings Packers?
No, I was dodging. You were dodging. Like Alexander Madison, who obviously did nothing, and I think it was Addison. One of the teams had that could have caught me. There was a point where Najee got stopped at like the 1 yard line, where I would have probably ended up winning anyway if he had gotten the touchdown. But there was a moment where a guy had a chance to catch me, and Najee got stopped at the 1 and didn't score. So yeah, like the sweat is wild. Winning is really cool. Obviously, I mean it's funny, but like the sweat of winning is almost more exciting than the end result of winning. Like I still think about actually winning versus like the money is obviously awesome.
Well, that's funny that you say that, Tyler. Hello, Tyler. We love you. Thanks for joining us. He said, I need to know. He wants to know what you did with the winnings. He wants to know, even though.
I'm boring, man. Those winnings are still, they found their way into savings and
okay,
house,
so nothing,
I'm a very boring person. Maybe if I take down BBM, I can get a little more creative with my celebration. But yeah, I would. I think it was a pretty good encapsulation of like I drafted like 350 teams last year, and like that's what we all want to happen. I hope it happens again. I do love the small field tournaments. I know you were talking about that on one of your recent streams. That like easier, smoother advance rates. Not having 1 out of 16, which I know BBM isn't like 116, 116 like it was last year.
113 and 116,
116, 116 is brutal. Like I had
a gauntlet,
I had 60 advancing teams to the BBM playoffs last year. Was like 40% of my teams.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I only had 4 teams make it through week 15. Like,
oh wow,
it was an absolute bloodbath.
So, did you have a BBM finals team as well? Or
I did not. Neil Farley on Twitter ran like an analysis of the most unlucky BBM people.
Oh no!
And I was the winner of the most unlucky person to not have a finalist team in the entire contest. my most likely team to make the finals would have gotten second if I got there with it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Had a lot of the same people as my team that won the Pitbull,
yeah,
which was a nice consolation prize. But actually, you were asking about the sweat. The first thing I realized early in the day was that my BBM team would have been absolutely cooking. And it only missed a couple of points. And I would have been leading until Jaden Reed and Jordan Love popped off. I've personally come to the conclusion that the process of watching myself be in first at BBM at the very end of the day, only to have it taken away at the last second,
would have
been absolutely soul crushing. And maybe I'm better off without that feeling, despite $1 million, I guess, would have been a nice consolation prize. But
that's a nice consolation prize. But as you said, that's soul crushing.
I'm choosing to believe that mentally I'm better off for it.
But we got Neil, our guy Neil in chat saying hello.
Neil's the man.
He's the man. Love Neil.
Neil, I am super appreciative of him. I've never been on a stream before, jumping on with him. I've just been popping around Discords and chatting with folks on Twitter a little bit. So I really appreciate him giving me a chance.
He says you don't have to tell to being in the wrong contest in best ball because you wouldn't have been able to draft the same team. I thought that's what I love about best ball too, because I'll do that in DFS. Like, oh my God, what if I would have put this in this contest? That kind of stuff. And you don't have to worry about that. Best
absolutely.
Ball. But like you said, the data that Neil Farley ran, that is tilting and
a little bit,
but quite a consolation prize. And again, congrats again. I wanted to hear all about the sweat. I love hearing all about the sweat. I cannot believe. Cheers to you for socializing still. And
was really calm.
Just been rocking, I think, back and forth by myself.
I don't think I slept really. But until I won, I was just like, I don't know, you're just locked in. Like, it's like you wonder, it doesn't feel real, I know Neil has won quite a few massive.
He took down a Millie maker.
The Millie, like, I think everybody who's won one, which a lot of people have at this point, it's like, it doesn't feel real. And then like afterwards, like I find myself just like laughing about it sometimes randomly, because it's like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever, experienced. It's like I played a stupid fantasy game that I've been playing since I was 10 years old, and
it just made 6 figures. Yeah,
it was a good year at the Business Factory. It was good validation too, because I sink a lot of time into this, right? Like, I mean, best ball is unforgiving in terms of time that it requires to, I think you need to. I don't think any kind of automator or draft caddy is going to be able to replicate the ability to sit in and analyze a draft room and push players when you think you get a chance to, and trying to find a way to find edges in each individual room. That being said, like at 45 minutes a pop, I know the faster clocks have helped a little bit with that, but at 45 minutes per draft, roughly on Underdog, you're talking about a lot of time if you want to put the volume in to try and have week 17 teams. Because I mentioned only having 4 teams in the finals with 60 semifinalist teams.
Yeah.
That was actually above expectation. Like with 1 out of 16, I was looking at like 3.7 semifinalist teams, which means like
you were still above.
A 25% chance from that of maybe having 1 finalist teams going into that last week. And that's with like pretty much a sun-run regular season. So it speaks to how difficult it is to find the finals, and the importance of putting in volume.
Well, yeah, and so to your point, you obviously maxed BBM, and then you did all those other contests. To your point about the advance rates, and what I've been talking about is last year I basically did BBM, and then everything else I did was, and I've talked about this before, so I'll make it quick, but what I'm trying to be much better about is everything else was last year. The puppies, they weren't as good. All the advance rates are much better this year. I mean, Underdog, kudos to them. They have crushed it in listening to the customers. And obviously BBM is flatter and better quarterfinals advance rate and all the things. And that's wonderful, but it's still a lotto. So I'm actually only doing, just trying to watch my life bankroll. I'm doing 75 BBMs, and a lot are going to be on stream, and I love it. But I'm doing way more than that. Like basically everything 101 and down that has a 1 of 6, I'm in, because that is huge. And so, and you've kind of spoke to that a little bit. that gauntlet of, one of 13, one of 16 is really hard. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to have fun drafting it with you here at BBM with you today. I'm having fun in the BBM streets, but I just want to make sure that I don't do what I did last year, which was basically all my advanced rates were anywhere from 1 to 10, 1 to 12, 1 to 16. And I want to have a ton. And that is my goal. I'm already well over pacing my BBMs, and I'm going to have, 100, 150 probably of those type of tournaments. So what was the advance rate last year? I'm curious about that. Was it the same? Was it like 1 to 6, 1 to 6? Do you remember?
I can pull it. It was 1 of 10 at one point.
Okay. And then my second follow-up question to that was, were you cautious of, okay, I'm going to max the BBM, but then I am going to do, a lot of these good advance rate, which they weren't as good. Again, the Underdog has made all the tournaments advance rates even better this year.
So I actually think the Pitbull is a similar advance rate this year. And
okay. Yeah. And it'll be interesting. Do you think they're going to put it out like you won the $75 Pitbull? I wonder if they'll put out the bigger Pitbull.
I think they will probably put so the current Pitbull is 1 out of 6, 1 out of 5, and 156.
And I still have a bunch of slows going in there.
I believe there was like a 2 out of 10 component last year to one of them, maybe.
Okay, so similar though as far
as it was a similar. I think it might have been different, but similar advance rate. And the finals was smaller in the 75 versus the 156.
Right.
With the 20.
So I hope they release yours. And I know last year they had the Chow, which was
like a $50 one.
Yeah, they haven't released that yet. So I'm hoping that comes. So I love those. So how many of those did you do last year?
I was a little light. I did 5 Pitbulls, which was what I decided I was doing roughly 5 of those. I mainly did BBM. I did 137 BBMs last year. I wanted to do 150 and just didn't get around to it.
It gets rough down at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I really wish I was drafting well in like randomly, and also because of the environment we were in. September drafts were really strong when you were taking Kyron Williams, so I do really wish I had 13 more Kyron Williams teams because I was basically on that rate in September. So that's kind of unfortunate, but I was kind of conscious of it. BBM is my favorite contest. I love the process of analyzing how ADPs fluctuate throughout the summer.
Okay.
And
because that was going to be my other question about the time box element, but go ahead, finish
what you were saying. The game theory element of who wasn't being drafted, or what combinations can you get at one point of the draft that you could not get earlier in the summer or later in the summer. I've been drafting pretty consistently throughout. I am currently at 70 BBMs, so I'm going to draft 150 of them. I'm right on around the rate I wanted to be at. I mainly draft puppies to keep myself away from the BBM streets.
To pace yourself.
I think it keeps you sharp. Stuff changes every day. $5 for 45 minutes of entertainment is not the worst, trade-off in the world. So I don't mind letting those rip, the $3 or $5 stuff. I do prefer beyond the BBMs, the flatter advance rate stuff, mid stakes. I'm not going to be I don't mess around in the big dog $500 entry streets. I did a big dog a couple years ago for $250. I would like to do, especially, I also don't like doing mid high stakes early in the summer. I would rather do time boxed mid high stakes in August, training camp season, when we know pretty much everything we're going to know about injuries, and we know pretty much everything we're going to know about training camp battles. And then everybody is playing with the same information. Let's play for some higher money.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be able to do those until August. Not that I'm doing those.
So I'll probably do some Chow Chow 75 Pitbull. I love the Dalmatian or whatever it was, Dalmatian 3 Max, $100. I'll definitely rip some of those. Once we have all the information. I did 1 Dalmatian the last time those popped up. But those are fun formats. I think it might seem intimidating to draft a $100 fantasy football draft, but if you're doing BBMs, you're letting 4 of those go by, you're ripping a $100 draft anyway. And
exactly.
It is the ROI you're going to likely have in those is probably better. It's a smoother advance. I mean, it's all,
I think the Dalmatian might even be 3 or 4 out of the 12 pod too.
Right. So you a little bit better shot to sweat some stuff. I do think it's important for people who do those sorts of tournaments, to realize that you're not in BBM. And so you don't need to hit the absolute nuts in week 17 to win the
Yes.
money. Like my Pitbull team would not have won BBM. It would not have, I don't know where it would have placed, but it would not have, I mean, it would have been towards the top somewhere. It was a good week, but I would not have been close to winning that. But simultaneously, like that team had Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott. Like it's pretty smooth advancing through a, you know, with a smooth advance rate when you have two elite quarterbacks sometimes that perform well, that can help, you know, give you a higher floor. You don't need every single hit. I mean, so it's good to think about like what you need to actually win a contest instead of like shooting for the nut optimal outcome. Whereas like with BBM, you really need to be cognizant of like, my team needs to be better than a couple hundred teams in the last week of the year, or it's going to be all for nothing, basically.
So it sounds like you absolutely love BBM and like the strategy component to that. But obviously, you took down the Pitbull last year. You see the benefit and the ROI, you know, the potential ROI for doing those types of contests. You did some last year. It sounds like you're doing more this year. But yeah. So yeah. And so my last question about that is like, do you have any specific, we actually did a show, check it out on the Fanspeak network, about time box tournaments and different strategies that you can implement in time box tournaments. You talked about not having to hit the nuts. Are there certain kind of levers that you pull where it's maybe a couple unique players because it's time box and they could be super low owned, or, you know, anything else that you do in time box tournaments specifically?
In the most recent, like, I think especially early, and this has become way more popular now, especially like in BBM drafts, but in the like 112 spot, or even like towards the back half of the board, like getting really unique with that second round player in what many people view to be a very flat tier, I think was at one point in the summer a big advantage in time box stuff. I don't think it really is anymore because everyone is basically using the 12 hole as a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, choose your own adventure. That's
and
true.
So, but like some of that, I do think like, yeah, like if you like, I don't know, like shoot like a Malik Washington or something, who had some positive hype coming out of like quotes from McDaniel recently about how much they love, like the draft video where they talked about how much they loved him. But somebody like that, like they're not being drafted, you can do that. Just in the smoother advance rates in general, I was prioritizing a little more stability at quarterback that I would usually go for in BBM. So I like, I'm a pretty big, like I got a ton of Will Levis.
He's one of my favorite, highest drafted quarterbacks.
He's, I think, him or Lamar are my most owned BBM QB right now. And like, I'm betting on him, but like, I have no problem with like a Lamar, Jordan Love, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, or, you know, Dak Prescott, Jaden Daniels team in like a Pitbull, where in a BBM, I might be like, okay, I'm going to not take two quarterbacks that high. I need higher upside in my lineups. Like I can bet on random late QBs. So I've because, you know, it's going to be smoother advance rates. You can, you know, there's a little more room for error. You don't need all of the upside in the world. Beyond that, it's very much the same game. You can, I think also like, you can get a little more conservative with how you build sometimes in bigger dollar amount, lower volatility.
You touched on the two things that I've been trying to do is, I mean, I structurally like to kind of play it safe for sure in those smoother advance rate. I also do like taking a few 18th round guy. I like getting a little creative with that. And then, as you said, the combo, you know, mixing up that combo to look for like a unique combo. And I will say we are partners with Best Ball Overlay. If you use code Fanspeak, it's 33% off, just $20 a month. And my favorite part of it, yes, we have the overlay, and the overlay is amazing for me to make quick decisions on correlation. But what I've been using the most is the combinations. That was probably my biggest weakness last year. And so last question before we jump into one is, I've heard on Neil's show, and by the way, he says, yes, he's won a milli, but he said taking down the best ball contest is the dream. So yes, hopefully it's a dream we can all realize. There's so many different tournaments this year. You know, there's so many more this year. So hopefully we know a lot of winners in the space this year, and that would be really fun. But I heard on Neil's show that you actually did a different combination at the turn last year when you had CeeDee Lamb. Instead of taking Amon-Ra, you took Devontae Adams, correct?
Yeah, I mean, so that is probably like, and I actually was talking to, is it Fantasy Dog Pound?
I love Pat, who runs Best Ball Overlay.
I was talking to him last year, like on Twitter prior to week 17, where he did like a thing where he was like, send your finals teams and I'm going to review them on stream. And I sent him my Pitbull team and was like, hey, like, just thinking about this, like, I've got some heavy Devontae Adams leverage right now. Like, I'm looking at the field. And he was like, yeah, it's awesome leverage. Hope it works out for you. And then he tweeted at me like midway through that day. And he's like, dude, your leverage is smashing. Like, you're going to win this contest.
That's awesome.
Which was kind of funny. And then he was like, I hope I didn't jinx you because I just told you were going to win the contest like at like 4 p.m. But yeah, well, one of that was I was really in on Devontae. But it has gotten me thinking more and more. And we're like all victims of our own biases. So now that has worked for me, I find myself thinking about it more and more often. But a good instance of that is like everyone in the world is drafting Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. Like it fits like a glove. It's beautiful. I'm very high on both of those players at cost. I'm also a massive Ravens homer, which like
I think it's fun you won with the homer.
I mean, I have Lamar. I mean, I think Lamar, like I have thought about it. If I didn't think Lamar was a good fantasy pick, I would not draft him. But I still think he's a good pick. I thought he was a good pick last year at cost. But I'm also biased and like it's really fun to root for your guy.
Of course.
That all being said, I do every time I watch a draft stream and somebody's like, awesome, Lamar Andrews, this is perfect. And they click them again together. And I've just more and more been thinking like Lamar, Trey McBride, Josh Allen, Mark Andrews. Like, you will get to the playoffs in week 15. And there is a 100% chance that like if your team gets there with one of those more oddball combinations, that you will have way less dupes in week 15, week 16, week 17 than if you have the traditional stack. Now, obviously, you lose some of the benefits of that correlation of like if Lamar pops off, Andrews is more likely to pop off as well. But that's got me thinking that for sure. I think if something is super, super chalk, not that you should completely, because there's good chalk, right? Like, I mean, Amon-Ra CD was plenty good chalk for you who won BBM. So that, like, was that optimal? No, but he had enough things that were optimal that Amon-Ra was able to cover the gap with Devontae Adams.
He didn't even have Lamar, the guy that won BBM. He had he had Love, and when Lamar outscored Love.
Derek Carr went off for 30 points that week. There were options. But yeah, Jawan Johnson went off like crazy, likely went off like crazy. Like there's always different avenues. But I think that really stuck out at the 112 this year, right? Like you're looking at, okay, what do you want to do? And there's a whole bunch of Marvin Harrison, Drake London teams floating around out there. And then when you think about how flat you think the tier is, I want exposure to Marv, but I also like wonder if he is like, he's basically priced at his ceiling, presumably, unless he's like the best rookie receiver we've ever seen. And so at first it was like, oh, I'm in the 12th spot. I might as well just draft those guys. Like I do like both of them a fair bit. That's kind of what prompted the let's just get weird, because if things are going to get flat, I'd rather have a random combination. BBM makes that complicated because like last night I drafted a team in BBM that had Jamar Chase, Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle, which is awesome. And I love all of those players. And I think it's pretty rare to get third round Waddle at this point.
For sure. Yeah.
But it made me feel pretty weird about the Devontae Adams, Jalen Waddle team that I drafted like earlier in the week at the 112, where I was like, I don't know who I want to take. I'm going to take those two guys. Now in a 1-for-1, I'm looking at one team has Jamar Chase, one team has like, I don't know, Zay Flowers or someone like a third round.
Yeah.
The benefit of a time box contest is that if you know like someone has not been available at that spot, you can feel more comfortable pulling them up. Nico Collins is a good example of that. Like early in BBM season, Nico Collins was consistently available at the 2-3 turn, was very often paired with like CeeDee Lamb or Christian McCaffrey or whoever. He's been pulled up. He pretty much never gets back there now. So in a time box contest, you could absolutely take Nico Collins and somebody else, Drake London, and feel pretty confident that like you were going to at least have some live outs and not need to be like perfect to get there. So it's just something to keep in mind of like what has already happened in BBM and versus time box where you're working with a very small, sometimes, I mean, the time box sometimes for these is like 2 days. Underdog drafters are sickos. So you get to
Oh,
Yeah.
it absolutely is only a couple days usually.
Right. It could be 24 hours depending on what they release.
Mhm.
And so you don't have to worry too much about like, is something going to happen? And so you can really get weird with it and understand that as long as, but you know, that you can get pretty good leverage pretty quickly. So that's basically where it's at.
I think they've got to be dropping. I know right now the fast puppy, slow puppies going on, but I think as those get full or close to full, my guess is like the chow's coming or something along those the lines, because that I think was around July or August. I know the one you won was in early August, I believe.
That was.
I'm guessing you remember.
I wonder if they are hesitant with mid-stake stuff with the sprint right now, where they has been floating, and Jewish McCaffrey has been like beating the drum on Twitter to announce every time one is close to filling in case anybody wants to do a.
I love how he does that.
He's like he popped into one of the Discords. I was like, man, they need to like get you on an affiliate deal for this contest because like
just for the sprint.
If he does an overlay, like that guy is 100% like going to be able to take some credit for like forcing these drafts on people. And I think it's an awesome contest. I just struggle to draft $50 drafts earlier in the summer.
I was gonna say I want to do some more sprint, but I want to wait until August.
Like I'm definitely gonna have some of those.
But
I think it's cool
because it takes away the pod luck element. It takes away, and you can just it takes away the week 17 stacking. It's just bet on those teams that you think are just going to crush in the playoffs. And and so I definitely want to do that. I did one sprint draft on stream. I'm sure we will do a couple more on this stream in August. Maybe you can come back and join us for a sprint draft, because I definitely do want to do more of those. We have Hassan in here, says hi there and says my hair looks good, or I have nice hair. So that's great.
I won't take that as a shot at my hair. So we can.
So I'll take that. I'll take that.
I should put the O's hat on, I guess is what he's saying.
No, I think your hair looks great too. So thank you. Thank you. But we are going to jump into a BBM5 draft now. I will pull this over. I'm actually going to jump into it on my phone. So that's why you're not seeing BBM pulled up. So if anybody is in here, wants to jump in with us, of course, like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network. We do 4 to 5 live drafts every single week, and we do have a few strategy shows. And of course, check out all our content on fanspeak.com. Got to throw that out there first before we lock into a BBM. So I'm going to count down. I'm going to jump in 3, 2, 1. I'm hinting enter now, and there's 8 more to start. So let me pull it over now here, and we'll get it going. I've got my slows going. And we'll pull this over here.
The BBM rooms were very interesting last night.
Was that the night you were on with Neil?
I was on with him earlier this week. I was on Wednesday.
Okay.
But I've been drafting the past 2 nights, and it is very obvious that some of the casuals have come out of hibernation.
Okay.
Which is really cool. It's like it has created some volatility in terms of like there's probably some more like QB sniping or random stuff that you wouldn't usually see when your draft is full of badges, which it's the good and the bad. But like I saw like Derrick Henry went at like pick 16 last night in one of my BBMs, and I was like, we are absolutely back. Like best ball summer has hit its apex. I am so happy to be here, which is why I'm trying to cool my jets and not draft too many BBMs, but also like seeing some more volatility is inspiring me to draft a little bit more right now. Because I think there are clearly edges. Like I think we can all see if you had some decent takes early, you can see like some of your favorite guys have risen a whole bunch. And so that feels really good, where it's like I got a combination that is in no way possible anymore. But also it's really fun to jump in a room where everybody isn't like a best ball sicko who drafts in May. Right. Because I don't think I'm the smartest person in the room if I drafted a room full of people that are sickos who draft in May. I think there's a lot of really smart people in this community. So
oh, absolutely. It's a very sharp community. And I still love playing. We're on 2, by the way, if anybody wants to jump in. I still love DFS playing DFS, but the basketball community is it just feels so fun. Like, yes, you can still have debates and we're not all going to agree. And I think the beautiful thing about basketball, I say it all the time, is there's multiple ways to win. It's not like there's just one way. We don't know, what is going to be the key strategy this year, what the 2024 season is going to give us. And, I know Hayden Winks has talked about like what's worked every year in BBM, but it really ranges year to year. So I love that, you can have your own strategies and stands, you can have debates with people. And yeah, it's such a friendly, supportive community, jumping on each other's streams like this, a lot of fun. So yeah, I absolutely love it. But a lot of sharp people out there for sure.
It's got really similar vibes to like mid 2000s poker community stuff where like,
okay, I was never a poker guy.
Just like there were strong internet communities where people are like evaluating hand histories and strategies and everything else. And so like, I think it's especially once you get the sea of like the masses start to enter the best ball tournaments. It's like, I don't think there's anyone in the space really who refrains. I'm sure there are folks out there who are super sweaty, who keep all of their takes to themselves and are like, I'm trying to optimize. But like most of the people who are putting in big volume or at least a lot of the people who are putting in big volume are present on Discord, on Twitter, talking about stuff and kind of making information available to the community to like discuss and debate on. And so I think that's great. I think it's super collaborative. I know I get excited when I see other people having success. I know plenty of people who are taking hard stands on players that I don't like, where like if they have success with those players, I will, cheer them on as they win their money. Like, I'm not, it's a collaborative thing. I think rising tide can currently raise all ships. Maybe eventually it won't, but I think there's still edge to be had for everybody right now.
No, I absolutely agree. And that's what's so fun about it is there definitely, and that's the thing too, is you could have these stands that you don't agree with people and we can still have varying levels of success. It doesn't mean like, if I'm kind of fading a guy and I mean, I think it's not as black and white as DFS in that regard. Like if you fade a guy in 1 week and you're going, way overweight on him, it's going to clearly massively work out for you because we're playing the season long game and, then you have to get through the playoff gauntlet and everything. It's fun to have different takes. I have to ask you on one of your guys that I'm very high on actually on your Ravens is Derrick Henry. I am actually definitely, I'm trying to be careful about my early exposures. But I have not been careful about Derrick Henry because I just think the value is there. I think he could lead the league in touchdowns and we're getting him in the third round. How much Derrick Henry do you have and how are you handling Henry?
I'm pretty much even with the field on Henry right now. I like him a lot. I have struggled to take him in front of Kyrie. Well, one, I've been pretty wide receiver pilled through the early part of the summer where like it is really tough to detour. And when you do, you're setting yourself up on a certain path for your team. And so I've taken a lot of round 3 wide receivers. And so that has meant I have not taken as much Henry as I would maybe take based on how I feel about him as a player and a best ball asset. So I do like him a lot, which speaks to why I'm even with the field on him. For reference, like I am very out on Saquon Barkley at his cost. I'm very out on Jonathan Taylor. I'm very out on Jahmyr Gibbs. Like I'm not taking a lot of that second tier of running backs. And so being even with the field on Henry is a bull situation for me.
For
I'm basically a little over even on the field with Kyron, which was not the case early. I've been scrambling my way back on Kyron.
Okay.
I was heavy Blake Corum early, and then Blake Corum prices went up, and I've been shifting back. But yeah, so I like Henry. I think he absolutely range of outcomes, 20 touchdowns. Lamar runs a ton, but they don't really pound Lamar in from the line. He's not great at it.
It's not a Hurts-Allen situation with that. I mean, you know this from watching, I'm sure, every single minute of Ravens games.
Yep.
So I don't see any names we recognize. We are about to come up, so let me go over here. So we're at the 9 spot. We are on the clock. Both the running backs did go. I do if Breece Hall falls. So we've got A.J. Brown, Puka, Garrett Wilson you said not Gibbs. So where do you typically go here?
I like AJ Brown.
Okay, that's right.
I've been.
It's Wilson or Brown for me. I'm obsessed. As you can see by my percentage, I'm at 19 Wilson. Whoa, because I just am obsessed with Garrett Wilson and the potential with hopefully a healthy Aaron Rodgers season. So we will be back up in 6. What do you usually do at this turn? We're not at the dreaded 12 spot, but towards the end, once we pass those 2 running backs, I do like the AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, but then like you said, you can get creative here at the 16 spot. So what do you typically like to do? I'll leave the board up to kind of look.
I'm all over the map.
Yeah. I love Drake London, but as you can see, I have 14%, and Nico are probably my 2 favorite, and then followed by actually Debo, I have 16% of. So, and then of course there's Devontae, your guy. So, what are your thoughts there, or running backs? Of course, it's the ones you didn't mention, so I assume not there. So, what are your thoughts with 2 picks to go?
Yeah, so I'm heavy. I probably have a similar percentage of Drake London to you.
Okay, he just went. Yeah.
So that's fine, but I like him a lot. I think they're going to obviously pass a lot more in Atlanta.
Oh yeah.
And I also like that he doesn't really fall. So I think you're already at a disadvantage playing from the back half of the draft. But I feel pretty confident that you're not going to get to many teams where it's like CeeDee Lamb, Drake London. So if he is strong, he's kind of unique to the back half.
So I just threw up these 4 wide receivers, or if there's anybody else you want me to throw up.
All those guys. You're at 3% Jalen Waddle. Do you want more Jalen Waddle?
I do want more Jalen Waddle.
Let's take Jalen Waddle.
No, and that's the beauty of best ball overlay. Because sometimes you're just unaware. You do this, you cue him up, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't get him. So, that's why I want to be very cognizant of my ownership and my combination exposures and that kind of stuff. I'll look in a minute at the turn here or at the break to see. I highly doubt I have any Waddle AJ Brown if I only have 3% Jalen Waddle. So that's the kind of beauty of best ball overlay and looking at that. I'll pull the board back over, and then I saw we got hit him with the gritty in the chat. I love it. 62% Henry. I know you make some big stands, and I love it. I love it. I am, I think, somewhere around 20%. So I do love my Derrick Henry. So love it. We have my guy Felix, who won DraftKings Millie Maker a couple years ago. Felix Castro. He's like the one who does like the 90%. So did you mention you had Najee on your team?
I did not. Najee.
Najee
almost burned me.
He was on a chasing team.
I was a part of the anti-Najee cabal last year. I did not understand the Najee price. It made no sense. I have watched Felix's streams. I think Felix is like I know Gritty is in the chat. I know he's active in like Liam Murphy's Discord. We've chatted back and forth on there.
Yeah.
I think people who are like super high exposures to their guys is fascinating. I'm not one to hate, like,
that's what I mean. There's different ways.
I mean, I can disagree vehemently with decisions. Like I watched a bunch of Felix's streams early last year. I watch a ton of best ball content. So I think it's interesting watching people think through their process. I think Felix seems like a great guy. So I enjoy watching his streams sometimes.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He would draft Najee like ahead of ADP, and I would just like last year, and I would be like, dude, like I know he won you $1 million, but like it'll be okay if you let him slip a little bit. Like, especially because sometimes he would fall. And I'd be like, man, you could get him next round. Like he's gonna fall to you. Just let it happen. And like it's you're sitting there like trying to backseat drive in a draft, like cracking up. But
backseat drive.
It could work, I'm sure I know a lot of people are low on Devontae Adams. I saw a tweet today that someone was saying like he's one of the worst picks in round 2. I'm sure someone would gladly tell me like, Jim, you're at 28.5% Devontae Adams right now across 265 drafts.
Well, so similar. He helped you win 120K, so you're pretty loyal to that. He's Devontae Adams.
Devontae just went in the 3rd round.
He just went in the 3rd round. That's nice.
I would have a stroke if I got him in the 3rd round on like a team with like regular. Like this is a BBM. I don't know how he falls to that pick. I think even his bear case, he is such a smash in the 3rd round. Like he still had a 30+% target share. The QB play should improve. We're here. If we're going quarterback,
these are a couple of my favorites.
I would go DJ Moore.
Okay.
I like DJ Moore. I think
I need more of him too.
It's scary. Texans Bears is very similar in that they have 3 very talented receivers each, and we're just kind of trying to guess. And the market has determined that DJ Moore is leading the charge in Chicago because he was already there and he's young and he had a good season last year with Justin Fields being pretty terrible as a passing quarterback. I could see any of the 3 being wide receiver 1 for the Bears.
Right. Yeah.
It's probably less likely for Rome, but
yeah, I think it's more likely.
17, Rome could just be the guy if he's as good as some people think he is. I've been buying I was not buying Keenan Allen until recently. I
need more.
I need to start drafting more Keenan Allen because I think I got to check my own bias there in terms of like their outcomes there. But he's really good. I like Pickens.
I have 3 options that I like, but I need more. I'm obsessed with Pacheco. I don't know why he's going at 40 in the 42. Yeah. So there's that. And then, of course, we have the stack available to us, and we have Pickens are the top 3 options that I like here. Yeah. But I'll let you be the tiebreaker. I mean, I have plenty of stacks with Hurts, and we do have other stack options, but obviously it's the easy layup stack.
We have really good stack options, so I wouldn't be as worried about doing Hurts here.
Are you fine with the Pacheco?
I'm fine with Pacheco. You have 16% Pickens, so we can get Pacheco.
Yeah, I've been trying. I just wrote about him the other day,
and he's not going to fall. He doesn't fall back to this pick really ever. So even if sometimes he falls back to the other side of the board, he's going somewhere in that range. He's not going to be available at 57.
Right.
Pretty much ever. I like Pacheco. I think he's got a clear grip on the backfield. I have been
I don't get why he's a 4th rounder. I mean, it just he's on top offense. Mm-hmm. He's got all the work volume. He gets a little passing work. I mean, he just has CH behind us, but he's like the main goal line back. I just wrote an article in November through the Super Bowl. He had over 18 carries a game. In the postseason, he had, I think, 20 carries, average 20 carries a game. It just has that goal line roll. Of course, we're touchdown hunting here. It just, So what I've been doing now, Jim, and speaking of different strategies, this time of year and before news starts hitting in August, and we're going to be in major reaction mode next month and all throughout the month, is I've been actually taking advantage of some of these fallers, doing more like 2 running backs and double anchor or double. Mm-hmm. Modified double anchor. And that's why I have so much Henry, and I'm trying to get more Pacheco, but I can see a case. I mean, of course, if the running backs stay healthy, I could see a lot of these running backs just way outperforming because of the value. And I understand there's great value later too, but the value in these first 5 rounds are guys that are just in more of like a bell cow, really good projectable volume. So I think that's kind of my zig right now is I'm doing a lot of the double anchor situation, but I'm making sure I stay paced with the receivers because I know you cannot fall behind. I do 3x6, 4x7, 5x9. Like I make sure the pacing, so I don't know. Have you done much of that yet, or do you try to diversify your portfolios? Do you have like a strong lean on like you said, the receiver pill thing? How have you been handling diversifying your portfolio this year?
Yeah, what you just described is something I've been thinking about a lot recently, which is that it has been super comfortable for me and kind of necessary to a heavy draft receiver. I mean, I've done plenty of teams where it's 6 straight receivers to start.
I feel like and then just hammer running. Yeah.
You pretty much always feel comfortable when you draft 5 straight receivers. Like you're not going to feel like you're behind. That being said, I do wonder, in a world where everyone is heavy receiver, like how is your team going to differentiate? And so most teams are prioritizing like the receivers and then a strong tight end, which I think is a fantastic way to build. I have been more and more thinking like, should I be taking elite running backs and then elite running backs with my receivers and trying to make up the ground at quarterback and tight end later? Especially because I think you're getting to a point where running backs are going to start to rise in cost.
So we are on the clock, and then I want to hear. So with that said, we have Josh Jacobs has fallen 5 picks past ADP, And then we've got my favorite guy in the 5th round, Mr. Calvin Ridley at 25%. And then anybody else you're interested in, board is yours.
Everyone asks who is drafting Calvin Ridley. I am double-digit Calvin Ridley, but not as much as you.
So do you want Ridley or Jacobs?
Take Ridley. I don't take Jacobs, so I'll put that on there.
That's fine. That's fine. You're never gonna have me upset with a Calvin Ridley team. I absolutely love it. I think Jaguars misused him last year.
They did.
I think the Bengals, or excuse me, that Callahan coming from the Bengals is gonna faster pace, more passing, use them like Chase. Like I am just so excited about this potential Titans undervalued offense. So
he ran really cold in the end zone last year.
I know. Did you see all those stats about the defensive pass interference? Of course, we know the end zone, like the 1 foot, the inch out of bounds. We saw that, but then so many of the defensive pass interference for both him and Lawrence this year.
I like DeAndre Hopkins too. I do think it was
same.
a fair critique early in the process where Ridley was 2+ rounds ahead of Hopkins, and everyone was like, "Why are they?" Well, and Hopkins was just clearly, because he's been pulled up, was completely undervalued where he was going initially. I think a lot, and I was out on Ridley last year because I thought he was going too early. When he was getting pulled up to the 2-3 turn, it was just this is not, I didn't really think this was tenable, and he would have had a great year. At this point, I feel like a lot of folks were burned by him last year, in that they expected him to be this elite talent, and he's a little older, but I think where he's going, you're making a similar bet to a lot of other players here. And, in a world where we're betting on Ladd McConkey to come in and be an immediate alpha, I think it's completely fine to draft a significant amount of Calvin Ridley. So I am at 13%.
So we are back on the clock. If you want to get a elite tight end, I'm never going to complain about getting access.
Let's take Kittle and see what happens.
Okay. I love getting, and I want more. Yeah. And now I have a bunch of live ones with Kittle that'll bump up probably with the field 8. I want more Kittle. It's not just because I watch receiver, which, by the way, did you watch receiver?
I have not. I plan to.
It's got your good guy. It's got your Devontae. And by the way, you're going to have flashbacks because I think they showed the Week 17 Devontae 2-touchdown game.
I've never seen it, so
you've got to watch it because I was having best ball flashbacks. I was having betting the same game parlay, DFS flashbacks. I was I'm such a sicko. I'm having all these flashbacks watching this amazing documentary, and it was wild. You have flashbacks to oh my God, I can remember the sweat, whatever. You were going to have major flashbacks to the Devontae stuff. Let me tell you. So you've got to watch it, and it's just excellent. It's absolutely excellent. So
I have a project in my head that I would like to eventually commission someone to do, which is a highlight reel of that Week 17. If somebody could do a 5-minute highlight reel for me of all of my guys popping off and scoring touchdowns. I think that would be really fun. I'm not technically gifted. I don't do video editing. I don't know how I would even begin to do that myself, but I would love to hire someone eventually to do that. I don't think it would be too much work.
I think I have a name for you when I'll talk to you after the show.
Yeah, that would be kind of fun. I don't think it would be there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you been handling Brooks and I've been drafting a lot of Hubbard, honestly.
I have so much Hubbard.
Okay, good to hear. I love when I agree with other people, smart people in the space. I just think that even when Brooks gets going, he's still going to have a role. So and we know that Canales runs the ball. So
13% Hubbard. I draft, as I said, I draft a lot of wide receivers. I draft a lot of rookie running backs. And so I usually think you need some stability with upside in some of your other picks. I think that's a lot of the calculus that goes into building a hero or zero RB room is do I have early season carries? Do I have late season upside that can actually get me a win in a tournament? And so Hubbard kind of gives you both. If he's just good, they might give him the ball the whole way. But at a minimum, I think he will get the ball. That being said, Jonathan Brooks just went at 77.
Yeah, he just went. I was just going to say.
I have been wondering if he's going to actually fall. We all kind of expected the pup. They're saying they think he'll be ready by the beginning of the year. Right. I'm at 8% Jonathan Brooks. I basically decided that I like him as a pick. He's cool. I didn't want to be behind, but I also wanted to leave open the possibility that he was going to fall and that I could scoop up some later closing line value.
So we're about up in a minute here.
I know
is
who
this
I
the
would
area
want,
you
but I'm
take?
going to let them do what they're going to do.
Okay, then yeah, just let me
I
know.
don't think they're watching, so it doesn't probably. They're non-badged and doing Lord knows what over there with two
Okay, they got
receivers.
Stroud. I'm not sure if they have.
I kind of like Addison here.
Okay, so I was gonna say I have 11%. I don't think he's gonna get the suspension.
I think he might, but I don't really care. Like, it's not like that's not a long suspension. Like, I think he should be heavily suspended because I think the league should take a stand on you guys need to get drivers and we need to sort this shit out. You can't be falling asleep in your car. Like, it's not a good idea. That being said, I was not drafting Jordan Addison, and I have been drafting him the past couple days because it has been really, really difficult to get the combinations of wide receivers that we have, like AJ Brown and Waddle, and this sort of room.
I
with
definitely don't have this type of combination.
That is strong. And so, because Jordan Addison was in the 60s like a week and a half ago, late 60s, maybe early 70s. So I'm enjoying a different combination here. I think people are going to react to the news, which is fair. I get that. If I had 20% Addison right now, I'd probably be like, maybe I can pump the Jets, but pump the brakes. But also, maybe I wouldn't. Like, if I had 20% Jordan Addison and I thought he was the right pick, I'd probably floor it and just say that 25% sounds good right now with him being cheaper and new combinations becoming available.
So we got our 5 receivers by 7. Have an anchor, modified anchor with Pacheco.
Oh, he's absolutely an anchor.
So I did pull it. This is the kind of the running back sweet spot. Do you like any of Ramondre, Kamara, Zamir White?
I like all of those guys that aren't. I don't really like Kamara. I have no. Kamara.
I don't have much Kamara either.
I drafted him this morning by accident. I was trying to do
I have 3%. So as you can see,
I was typing an email while. I'm glad somebody took him. I always feel good when somebody takes them because sometimes I feel like.
And then you can get these guys later, but then there's also most.
I really like Ramondre. Do you have any?
And he fell. I mean, he's been falling a little.
Let's take Ramondre there. He doesn't usually fall like that.
Pacheco, Ramondre in getting 5 receivers by 7 rounds, and Kittle feels really good. So
he opens up Drake May late, which is cool. And doing like a Patriots thing. They paid him like they plan on using him, so I'm just gonna take their word for it. I'm kind of doing the same. Zamir White has not been paid, obviously, but everything that's come out of their mouths about Zamir White is like, we like Zamir White. He's going to get the ball. I'm just going to trust them. Last year when they got the opportunity to give him the ball at the end of the year, they gave him the ball. He did pretty well with it, even though their offense was bad. So I know a lot of people have been like, oh, Zamir White could be this year's Alexander Madison.
I've seen that.
Or like this year's Mike, who was the former
Mike,
Carolina?
The guy who's the Falcons.
Mike,
it's driving me nuts.
I'll find it. Panthers.
Mike who?
Mike Davis.
Mike Davis,
Mike Davis. Yeah. And it could be the Mike Davis, basically like the running back who like people always wondered about, and then he finally gets a backfield to himself. And the difference here is that he's playing with the same team. It's not Madison going to a different team and taking on a starting job. It's a running back that they took a look at the end of last year and seemed to have decided that they like. Whereas Mike Davis went to Atlanta and it was like, oh, he's finally going to be out of the Carolina backfield. He's no longer behind Christian McCaffrey. Like, he's going to be the guy. Where Madison moving out from the shadow of Dalvin Cook, where he looked okay in like spelling him. This is someone they seem to have liked. They went out and got Laube or however you pronounce it. Who's like a third down pass catching guy. That's fine. They went out and got Madison, who we all have decided is terrible. I think we all agree. Like, nobody's taken him. So I'm pretty in on both of those guys at running back. But I'm pretty in on Stevenson. He was a 3rd, 4th round pick last year when people thought he was going to command that backfield. He had a rough year. A lot went wrong. They had a terrible offensive scheme. I'm ready to jump back in with that a little bit. I think he could be a pretty good security blanket for. Yeah,
and after this pick, I want to ask you kind of the favorite running backs you hit. If you're hitting receivers hard, you're definitely, I assume, hitting running backs hard in this area. And I wanted to know who you're drafting the most. You said,
are you a Commanders fan?
I am, yeah.
Okay, well, one of your guys who sits at the top of the board is I think my highest owned running back.
Brian Robinson.
Yeah, He's
I have I have
right
10% Brian Robinson, and then because you can get him a little later, I have 19% Eckler.
I saw that.
Okay, so we're up in one. Brian Robinson goes. The top of the running back board
is him necessarily.
Is Singletary, Benson, Javonte. It's a little early for Purdy, but I queued up our receivers or quarterbacks just to watch them. Oh, someone took Tua.
I don't love.
And then
I don't love going QB here, but
here's the receivers. So
it does get weird.
Thoughts with 15 seconds?
Let's take Josh Palmer.
Okay.
And just see.
I like that.
Gives us.
It also gives another stack option.
That gives us another out. We also just took Ramondre, so that gives us the game.
Yeah, so I queued up Drake May, Will Levis working backwards here.
Got the Davis Maddox star method working.
Yeah, I got the major star method working. Where did Tua's been falling lately?
They can have him.
I've been trying. It must have been Hill. The Hill team must have taken.
Oh, with Dak, you needed that. And Allen.
Tyreek. Yeah, Tyreek. Oh wow. Yeah,
Allen,
Josh Allen.
Dak. And he needed those guys. That's fine.
Okay. We'll run on the running backs, or excuse me, the quarterback on these last two rounds. Tua's been falling to me like crazy lately, so that's why I did the queuing method. So, did you want to take Purdy here?
We can.
Or would you rather Caleb Williams, or what are your thoughts?
I'm fine with both. They're both great. I think at 112, they're both good bets.
I mean, I'm obviously at 16% betting on the better, the team projected for the most points in the league. So
and Lawrence goes, I do think we're getting to a point. This is going to get a little weird at quarterback because they're coming off early. So I would take one of them there.
Okay, I'll let you choose. I mean, again,
I take them at a comparable rate.
Okay.
Let me think. Let's just take Caleb. You've only got 3%.
That's fine.
And we're only single stacked with Purdy, where it's just the Kittle Purdy, which is fine. I took a Kittle Purdy earlier today. I do want some of the quarterbacks are tough to stack. And Purdy is one of them. The other one being like some quarterbacks I like are tough to stack. Purdy is one of them. Dak is another one where it's like, I love Dak. I love CeeDee Lamb. I don't really love Dak when I don't have CeeDee Lamb. And so that's
why he falls sometimes. So like because I like Dak so much, I don't let him fall. Like if he falls, I'm like, no. Because I'm like at nearly 20% Dak. I'm like, nope, if you guys are gonna let him fall, I'm taking him. I'm grabbing Brandon Cooks. Or sometimes I'll proactively, if I don't have the Lamb spot, because I mean, obviously, you're only getting Lamb so much percent of the time. So I don't want to just be Dak Lamb. I mean, I do think obviously Lamb's gonna smash when Dak's not, I get that whole thing, but I want to have way more Dak than that. So what I've been doing is sometimes I take Jake Ferguson. We actually did on the stream that I did with my brother. And he was like, oh, Dak's not going to fall back to us. And I'm like, if the Lamb drafter doesn't take him, yes, he will, so, and he did. And so we got Dak at like 106. And then sometimes I'll take him at like, 101 or something like that and just take him and then just say, I'm going to try to get Brandon Cooks. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I don't, then I usually take like one of the running backs and Tolbert or something like that. So, so that's how I've been kind of.
I applaud. I have thought about that a million times, and I've taken some naked Dak teams where the value gets to be too good, and I just galaxy brain myself a scenario where Dak scores 25 to 30 points, but whatever receiver I took in the first round happens to score more than CeeDee Lamb, and so like. I get the best of both worlds because that's really all it takes. Like, if you're talking about a single week 17, like how do you win the contest with Dak and not CD? It's like if Dak CD is a really good combo and Dak has a great day, and as long as one of the other first round wide receivers outscores CD, you're there. If you have the right guy. So I applaud you for getting more Dak because I have too little for how good. I think he's an absolute steal where he goes with CD.
And this one
behind, like
and when he's fallen into the early 100s, it just feels. Which this is interesting. The person did what I did, which I think we're on the clock in a minute, but they got Ferguson way earlier, took Dak and sniped the guy who took Lamb. So then the Lamb drafter did not get Zach.
Wait, what is the point? And they have Josh Allen. Is that who they took at the top?
Yeah.
And they took Kincaid, so they just are okay.
Okay, that's interesting.
That's just they're shooting from the hip. That's cool.
Okay, so 129. We're around Herbert's ADP. The running backs on the board because we're at a 1-2-6-1.
Yeah, we need a running back.
Corum, Chase Brown, Jerome Ford.
I'm cool with any of Corum, Chase Brown, and Charbonnet. It looks like you don't. I've been pumping the brakes on Ford because I'm a little bit of a coward, and Nick Chubb is a scary looking man. I have a ton of. Get some. Corum is great there. I think he's fine.
Yeah, I barely have any Corum, so
I think, and this is good.
In hindsight, I probably should have taken Charbonnet with the week 17 correlation, but
so I don't love Corum. Sometimes goes at like 115, and that is way too rich for my blood. I'm pretty heavy on Corum, but I was taking him a lot when he was in the 130, like in the 130 range. So I still like scooping him when he falls back to that price. I think.
Wow, Nick Chubb went 118 in this one. Flew up.
Am I gonna have to start?
So we'll be back up at 136.
I don't know.
I mean, my personal opinion is if you have an opportunity to get Herbert.
I like Herbert. Yeah, we set ourselves up for this. Yeah.
Yeah, then I like that, and then we can just make a late decision if you want it, and then we can focus on. So yeah, because we've got a 1-3-6-1 heading into our 12th round pick. 2 picks to go. We'll see if Herbert falls to us. I just think that's, and he's another one, just like Dak. I mean, honestly, all these quarterbacks going like 8th, 9th round. Okay, so you're fine with Herbert?
Yeah, Herbert's great there. I've been proactively I've been doing basically what we did in this draft, which I was not getting enough Herbert, and so I think especially because I was taking 5 wide receivers and then cooling off one wide receiver until late in the draft. And so that left me to like not as much Josh Palmer.
Not much Palmer. Okay.
Nobody gets excited. And I don't mind Palmer, but like I was just like I was taking a lot of running backs in that range. Quentin Johnston, like, do you really want to build your stack around Quentin Johnston? So I was only really going for Herbert on teams that I happen to have Ladd. And similarly to like the Dak thing, when you're only taking a quarterback when you have it paired with a singular receiver, you start trying to thread a pretty narrow window.
Right.
And so I didn't have much Herbert. So I've been proactively trying to build more Herbert stacks. I've gotten back even with the field on him. I think he's great value.
Nice. I think all these quarterbacks that are, I mean, I love the elite quarterbacks, don't get me wrong. And I especially have a lot of Allen and Hurts when you can get it at that 4th round turn, like, when you have that like 10 through 12 and you can get them in the 4th round. But like, I just think it's criminal where like Dak through basically, honestly, Rodgers and Cousins, but like it's just littered with the quarterbacks that we have seen go in these last 3 or 4 rounds. It's just littered with quarterbacks that I just think are quite honestly going too low. So I think we're going to look back and say, wow, Herbert went in the 12th round. That's crazy. I think sometimes we blow out the narratives a little too much. And I think the run heavy narrative, and yes, he lost weapons, but what if, Palmer stepped up when guys would go out last year? What if Ladd McConkey is the real deal? You know what I mean? Then I think Herbert in the 12th round is just going to be pretty silly with a great offensive mind in Harbaugh. So I'm excited. I'm trying to get more Herbert. I think the price is way, way, way too low.
Yeah. I mean, he was a round 5 last year, somewhere in that range. And obviously the trajectory from the Chargers to that point was that they were like a record-setting pass volume offense in terms of like, and he is like more pass volume than any quarterback ever. And so like, so like, cool. Like I get that he is no longer that. Likely with Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh, like they brought over front office folks from the Ravens. They drafted offensive linemen, like and it's the right thing to do, right? Like that team has been soft for so long.
Yeah.
But what that's going to do is probably open up a more functional offense.
Right.
Now I do worry about the weapons at receiver, but I think he's still talented enough. He made it work last year at times with really bad receivers. I do wonder what they're going to do at tight end. I think there's probably some value in there if we actually knew who was going to see the field. I also think that one of their running backs is obviously going to be super underpriced, and we don't know who it is yet.
So we're up at 153. I queued Cole Kmet. He's had a fall. So I didn't know if you were interested in that and just be done at tight end or
I would take Kamani Vidal and
or
we can see,
I was gonna say
we can see what happens with Kmet.
Okay, that's fine with me.
If they want Kmet at the turn, that's fine. I mean, we have Kittle. We can get somebody else, but
okay, I would like
Kmet to come back to us. That would be cool.
Yeah, because we're up in 6 for our 14th round pick. We're at 2-4-6-1. Yeah, I definitely obviously think this will be a 6 running back build. So if there's any other, there is Hubbard here.
Hubbard is cool. I think you look at Corum and you look at Vidal, and they could both be potentially contingent value plays
later, and then Hubbard could be earlier.
And Hubbard could keep I don't know what's gonna happen. Like nobody knows what's gonna happen with Corum, right? Like he could see a decent bit of volume if they decide like Kyron is awesome. We want to preserve Kyron's legs because we think we're a competitive team and we want to have him available for 17 weeks. They could also basically just say he's our insurance policy and Kyron's going to do the same thing he always did because McVay doesn't like taking running backs off the field. We don't really know. I think Kyron is scary Corum is scary at cost, especially when he goes at like 115. But I also think he's probably like top 3 on the list of contingent value running backs in the NFL.
Yeah, that's why I want to get some of him.
And so I am comfortable. Like you're playing to win the contest. One of the outcomes is like Kyron Williams has nagging injuries again, and Corum is scoring 22 points a week, and you really want to be a part of that. So I want exposure. That being said, right, like how do you get this team to the end of the season?
Right.
And it's probably, I love the first 2 running backs here. I think those guys are perfect for this. I think Hubbard is perfect for this.
I think especially the beginning versus potentially these two rookies end of season situation. Hubbard helps supply that beginning of the season. I've also taken Hubbard when I do take Nick Chubb in the hopes that if Chubb comes back and is Nick Chubb, then Hubbard kind of supplies that beginning of the season stability. So definitely like that. So yeah, through 14, we're at 2-5-6-1, leaves us some optionality here. So I like that. And when you do like a tight end, not like one of the top elites, but like in the Pitts Kittle range, do you typically just do 2 then?
I do. Well, I know you're a big 3 QB person. I am not.
I am, but that's okay. I'm not gonna push my agenda on you.
And I get it. I do. Like I don't know, like Derek Carr last year scored 30 points in week 17. Like as you mentioned,
in week 15, I think was Baker and Goff.
Did you see you had a finalist team at one point for BBM or something? And it was because of So like again, we're all biased. We're all biased towards what works.
Exactly, the success bias. Yeah.
I tend to be pretty aggressive with my QB builds. I took Aiden O'Connell as a number 2 QB in a 2 QB build last night, which even made me feel kind of weird.
He was literally just your
he's my QB. I went. I took a Lamar Aiden O'Connell room last night.
I did hear an interview with Devontae really talking him up. So you never know.
I think he's starting.
I didn't at first, but the more I read and hear, and now I do.
I was in the same boat. I assumed when they signed Minshew, I was like, O'Connell's not any good. Minshew is going to win this job. He was pretty good in Indy. I think he was a little better at the end of last year. I think they're going to let him try for at least one more year to earn the spot. It's a little scary. It's fragile. He's literally the first time I had drafted him in a BBM. I have him in a couple puppies and stuff, but I ran out of options. Everybody else went, and I could have gone 3 QBs, or I could have gone like unstacked Derek Carr in the 18th round. I was like, no, we're just going to bet that we're right on Aiden. That being said, same thing can happen with tight ends, basically, where George Kittle is not going to get probably the consistent volume that we would like in terms of he's not Hawkins or not. He's not Laporta. He's not. If Kelsey pays off, he's not Kelsey.
Right.
If Pitts pays off, you're kind of thinking he's quote unquote wide receiver 2 in Atlanta. If Kincaid pays off, you think he's like the apex option in Buffalo. Same with Andrews. Kittle is part of a 4-player pool that is going to be vying for targets. And honestly, maybe more if Pearsall is like a real player or whatever. So I would usually with Kittle like to have 3 tight ends because you probably, we're kind of touchdown hunting in some respects. Yeah. I would potentially take, a second with Kittle. Sometimes I like taking somebody like an Evan Ingram or somebody that you think might get some
Yeah,
more
if you can
consistent
get a
volume, and
second
then calling it a
one.
2. But in this situation, I'd probably go with that.
Are there any tight ends on the board that you like now?
I
Or
like the guy that you have 27% of.
Tyler Conklin.
Yeah, I'm a
it is
believer
just
there.
it is just such a comfy click for me. Especially.
I mean, it's the same bye week, I believe. No, is it? I don't know what their bye week is like.
9 and
Oh
12.
yeah,
So you
I would take
find
Conklin here. I just get and now his name is escaping me.
So we're up in.
I get Tunyon vibes where
we just talked about that in the show the other day about Rodgers elevated Tunyon to what a tight end 3 status. He had that one game with 4 touchdowns or something. So if you wanted to jump back into the receiver pool, we've got Bateman, Michael Wilson, Corley at Mims at the top, and then running backs Herbert, Braylon Allen, Tracy CH, Pierce, that range. So.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
Running back is ugly. I like some of the receivers here.
Because we went heavy, but then we cooled off. So I'm fine. This is the pocket where I like receivers again. My favorites are obviously by percentage. I pump the brakes a little on Corley, but I like Bateman, Mims, opening up to McMillan more. Not sure how I feel about Corley. He just went. So what do you like in this range?
Yeah, I don't take much Corley because I take a lot of Conklin. So I've just kind of made my bed with Conklin being like someone who really benefits in that. I completely.
And I don't mind in high exposure to like late round guys. Oh, I like late
round.
I
don't mind. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little scared of my own Devontae Adams exposure, but late round it's completely fine.
What do you think about Bateman?
Bateman's fine. I also am fine with Marvin Mims or McMillan here.
Okay, I'm going to put all 3.
We don't have any Bengals.
The Mims, there's a Chargers week 16, and
we have some vague Carolina stuff, but I don't really care about. Am I really
10 seconds? Do you have a preference?
Whichever one you want of those 3 is completely fine. I am open. Bateman's the faller. You could go Bateman. I think Bateman in round 16 is really good. He's running routes, and I know it's been ugly, and I know we've all been burned, and I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah,
I had
totally Michael Scott get ready to get hurt again.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think one important things to acknowledge. I had 20% Rashad Bateman last year, and I still had the best advance rates I'm ever going to have in my life. So you can miss sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I was taking it because I believed in the proverbial Bateman line last year where once he went, the receivers really fell off. And so I was not taking a lot of Nico Collins, which shame on me. I
didn't take enough Nico either last year.
Bateman doesn't need to do much to pay off here.
No,
and he is going to be on the field. The Ravens, I think, believe in him. All of the buzz from everyone on the team is that he looks as healthy as he's ever looked in the offseason. And I know we've all heard these stories.
Is this his 3rd year, 4th year, 3rd
year?
It
is his 4th or 5th year. He's 2021. So
okay.
It's his 4th year, but they did not pick up his option, but they extended him. It's his 4th year.
I thought he got some kind of contract. Yeah. So
he got an extension because because of his injuries and stuff, for some reason he was not eligible for the 5th year option. And so they found a way to work an extension.
He wasn't a first round guy, was he?
He wasn't. He was a 27th overall pick.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yes.
I didn't realize.
And people really liked him. And honestly, there was a period of time in his 2nd year where he was supposed to be the clear wide receiver 1, where he looked pretty good at the start of the year until he got hurt. Right. And he had some touchdown drops last year that were really silly, where it's his hands are better than that. Lamar hit him in the hands a couple times and they just popped right off his hands. It seemed like they just had no chemistry. He did not feel comfortable in the field. I do think he's a good route runner. The advanced analytics like him as far as getting open. I'm not going to sell anyone a story on Rashad Bateman being some massive breakout. But if you believe in the Ravens offense, if you believe in Todd Monken, round 16, Rashad Bateman is fine. He's going to be the number 2 wide receiver.
Exactly. You're getting the number 2 wide receiver on the Ravens. Exactly. Say no more, basically. I think that is just something that I want more of, because I think I was at around 10%. So I think honestly, we'd be fine at 7 receivers because we went so heavy early. and grab another running back here and then just take value at the last pick. I mean, I've been taking Pierce. I've been taking Bigsby. Who else do you like as like a late running back here?
I take some Audric Estime.
Okay. I have
I
only
don't
2%,
know.
so I'm open to it.
I mean, I have no idea what's going to go on in Denver. Well, Pierce went, so that's gone.
What's your take on this? Would be another late hit, but
I do not take Keaton Mitchell.
Okay,
so
yeah. I need to pump the brakes on it.
So I think that they are planning on giving.
Do you want to do Estime or do you want to
do Estime over Bigsby? But
okay.
I don't. If you want to do Bigsby, like fire away. I don't take much Bigsby, so maybe that's a leak for me. I think Estime could easily find his way into some heavy work by the end of the year,
especially as a goal line back.
Yeah,
because I know that my brother, when we did our rookie previews, he was like, "This guy is just built for the goal line role," you know.
Right.
So okay, so if we wanted to look at tight ends, I mean, I'm not a Senate girl, but I mean, this is late. Jelani Woods, Gesicki, and then I've taken a ton of Jatavion Sanders. You can see most of that was early.
Welcome to Jatavion Sanders Island. He is still my most. I have pumped the brakes so aggressively.
I've pumped the brakes lately, but
I had to. I didn't pump the brakes. I slammed the brakes. He was my most owned BBM player there for a little bit, and I felt like it was a sharp play.
I did too. Yeah.
Everyone was like, "No, he's not actually any good," and I was like, "Okay, like if
let me throw out, and then I want to hear more about the Jatavion Sanders thing. Let me throw out one thing. Do you ever do weird like for low owned stuff at the quarterback position? I've taken Sam Darnold in a time box. I have only done it once in BBM.
I don't take any of that.
Okay, so you don't do that. Okay,
I just think the two guys we have are cool. We bet on them. I don't know we don't think we have any real.
So it's really tight end here. I mean, I like the upside of.
So you have not drafted Sinnott, which is interesting as a.
I mean, at this point in the last round, I'm fine.
I would take Ben Sinnott.
Okay.
I think at pick 208 when he was previously going very high.
Oh yeah, he got up to like 140s or something.
And then also we have some real stability at tight end with Kittle and Conklin, so he could basically be a zero for 90% of the season and be fine.
Right.
And I don't know, like I totally get the fear with Sinnott. I don't take a ton of Sinnott. That he played like fullback a lot in college and was kind of a converted to a tight end guy. They clearly drafted him to play tight end eventually, but
it's just more when is it?
When is a problem? You know, it's like
he got in the way of Trey McBride until he got injured, and I think they brought him in, for the culture and all that stuff. Just
he's going to play.
But he's going to play. He's going to play. Ertz is going to play. So that's it's also kind of being cynical about Washington being a low volume passing offense. I kind of compare the passing offense to like I would never like double, triple, like well, maybe not double or maybe double, but like I wouldn't like triple stack Jaden Daniels. You know what I mean? Like I just think I think it's going to be very similar to like a Justin Fields, like where only one receiver, maybe a tight end would get there. Like maybe one or two will get there, but like he's not going to be able to prop up that many receivers, in my opinion. I think most of his fantasy production is going to be on the ground. He's going to scramble a ton. I just don't think I think the passing attempts are going to be so low in Washington. And so that's my take on it for this first year, but I mean, I could be wrong.
You don't think Cliff Kingsbury is going to let him sling the rock a little bit?
Our offensive line is horrible. Absolutely.
I know.
We're bottom fourth in the like.
I just wonder. I mean, I've drafted. I say this as someone who has some very large Terry McLaurin bags right now.
Oh, I like Terry McLaurin. I think if anybody gets there, it's Terry McLaurin. Let me refresh. I'm saying I have Terry McLaurin. I'll take them individually. I'll take like with the times I've taken. I'll take like one with Daniels and maybe, but definitely no more than two. When I see people stacking like 3 or 4 with Daniels, I'm like, this isn't a guy that I just don't see it being like that. I just think I think he's going to it's going to be like 25, 30 attempts. I think it's going to be very similar to Justin Fields. I think he's going to have to scramble for his life. I mean, I think there's going to be a ton of design runs. And then I think the times that then he drops back, it's going to be a lot like it was at LSU. That there's going to be plenty of times where he's like, shit, and I got to get the hell out of here. Because, I mean, we're talking really, really bad. And that's something I'm very disappointed in the Washington. I love new ownership, love new GM, love new coach, love it all. Very excited, trusting the process, all the things. But with that said, I do not like that they did not address the offensive line when they were getting a rookie quarterback. So, and I was team Drake May over Jaden Daniels. So I'm, hey, I'm trusting the process, but the whole offensive line thing is a real big concern for me. But with that said, love Terry. So the Terry bags, totally get it.
I'm pretty heavy on McLaurin, and I'm trying to be heavy on Daniels. I'm also pretty damn heavy on Luke McCaffrey, but it's basically because he's free. And,
he's so cheap. Yeah.
And at that point, I'm just trying to get decent exposure to the entire tier of like McCaffrey, McMillan, insert receiver here, because if any of them is the breakout guy that you need, and like maybe McCaffrey is running slot routes and they're doing a lot of quick design stuff to him to alleviate the pressure on Jay. Like it could easily be something. Depends on if he's any good, but
he's kind of got the breakfast narrative going with Jaden Daniels too. Like, rookies together, going in early, building early together and stuff like that. So, yeah. So
I've been betting on that. I mentioned that I'm heavy on Brian Robinson. So I have a pretty heavy, I just think the defense is pretty good. So maybe they can, or at least the defensive line is pretty good. So maybe they can slow the game down.
The secondary was
I don't think
terrible.
Cliff knows how to slow the game down. Like Cliff is.
Yeah, no, I think the pace will be fine. I've been
betting on them.
Worried about the total pass attempts. Are they actually going to be there versus that kind of stuff versus scrambling and that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see. I definitely need to get. I'm higher on the Washington running backs and Terry. I need to get a little more in on the other pass catchers and Jaden himself, because I know he could break, fantasy this year. I totally get that's in the range of outcomes. I've always been a little more skeptical on rookie quarterbacks. Stroud obviously put it right in my face last year. So
I love Stroud last year, but I also love Bryce Young. So I take no credit for anything. I took both. I was just like with Stroud. Well, I had more Stroud, but only because Young never fell. Stroud started around where Young was going, and then by the end of draft season was in round 18. And I was like, well, if he's free, I'll just take him.
That's awesome. It
was cool. I mean, it was I didn't think although I was stacking Stroud with Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz, and not Tank Dell, Nico Collins. So I missed the boat on some of the fun there. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think rookie quarterbacks can be really good. I look at somebody like Anthony Richardson, where he showed us a couple of really great weeks before getting drafted, and now he basically goes where Lamar goes.
Yeah,
and that's scary to me because I love Shane Steichen. I think Anthony Richardson has the talent to break fantasy, but if my choices are one round before I can have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and the next round I can have Anthony Richardson, I'm going to veer towards what I know. And versus like Daniels, where you basically get out of all of the premium players before Jaden Daniels comes off the board. He sits in that Jordan Love range, which I also love.
I was going to say, that's what's been so tough for me with Daniels is I admit I'm cynical and obviously, listen, Lamar has stayed healthy last year, but 2 years prior he was on IR, there is a risk, which by the way, Friends of Best Ball next week, we're having physical therapist who was on with the guys before. So he's got a big medical background and it breaks down injuries type stuff, which will be fun. But I am super cynical about running quarterbacks and definitely do 3 quarterback builds with them because I can see the potential. They get popped out for, of course, if you lose them for the beginning of the season, your team's screwed. But say you get, again, my BBM3 finals team, I lost Dak for the first 6 weeks. And so it went from a 3 quarterback to a Kirk Cousins and Carson Wentz. And then Carson Wentz actually did play basically till almost when Dak came back, but he gave me 2 or 3 spike weeks because Kirk kind of started the season slow. So, there can be situations where these guys get popped out for just, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. And so I am pretty cynical about that. I just worry about the way Jaden Daniels takes hits too. And he goes in that range with Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, those quarterbacks that I'm just quite honestly obsessed with the whole offense. And so that's been my biggest issue. But I need, with that said, I need more exposure. Totally.
I struggle to see how you can go wrong drafting Jordan Love right now.
Yeah.
I had him fall to me at like 117 yesterday.
Yeah, and sometimes he does fall that far. It's crazy.
I posted the team in Neil Orfield's Discord, but I was like, I think this is my favorite BBM team I've drafted so far. And like Jordan Love, I'm just watching him fall down the board back to 117. And I'm like, this is absolutely insane. Like in a room where like other quarterbacks were being pulled up in front of him.
But it's because the whole thing of the guys that have their stacks go ahead of them get pulled up. The guys that don't, he only has Reed, going ahead of him.
Watson.
So if the Reed, and now Watson. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
I have a big Watson bag.
I was like totally not on Watson the past couple of years, and this year I'm like, you know what?
He's
totally see if he stays healthy. It's and so I'm just I'm rotating when I do Love stacks, I just rotate, try to get 2 and rotate through who I get. Who have you been highest on with your Watson stacks? Your Love
I'm highest on Watson right now. I would like to do more where I just take Jordan Love and say, okay, I'm going to find Dobbs or
Wicks or something.
Or Dontavian Wicks and Musgrave, and maybe do like one of the receivers with Musgrave and Love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably something I haven't done enough. I don't have very much. I'm pretty much even. I have probably 5% of both Dobbs and Wicks. I know everyone loves Wicks this year. He's like the flavor of the week breakout candidate, big analytical darling receiver, and that's cool. I don't know if he's going to get on the field enough to pay that off, even if he is super talented. So I have not been taking him as much. But I have maybe 10%, 11% Jordan Love, which is fine. It's above the field, but I would be completely comfortable with 18 to 20% Jordan Love at the price.
Oh, that's where I want to get. Yeah,
that's I think where I want to be. And so I am going to be exploring any and all options in the coming weeks. Also, with kind of what you were talking about with quarterbacks being pulled up, the drafts are getting a little more volatile with some more random drafters wading into the waters. If you take a guy like before, I was very comfortable just waiting on my quarterback, and knowing that I can push Tua around and he's going to come back to me or whatever it is. Now that that's going to become more difficult, there's going to be more incentive to be like, you know what, I'm going to take Jordan Love. I don't even have a stack yet, but I know there's a ton of back stack options.
Yeah, there's some.
Let's just get him in there, because I know then when my quarterback that I want, if it's like Herbert or someone, gets sniped, I'm not going to be throwing my mouse across the room in anger, because I already have my guy. So I think being a little more intentional about some early quarterback stuff is going to be important. And Love is a guy that I really would like to capitalize on. I think he is super well priced. He started a little slower, and not slow, but then sped up. He never really slowed down as the season went. And so if he picks up where he left off, he's an absolute smash.
Oh God, yeah.
And so I'm all in on him. I think similar, and he's so much easier than Dak. I know you mentioned trying to get, and I like Dak. He goes before Love by a little bit, but Dak, even if you try and add a different stack with Dak, you're basically limited to forcibly getting Ferguson right after him, or right before him. I guess he goes right
before him. Yeah,
you need to intentionally take Ferguson, or you're just praying Brandon Cooks doesn't go before.
Which a lot of times he's been going up higher, so that's much harder. Yeah.
And that creates such a murky scenario to take him without anything, unless you preset the Lamb or the Ferguson. Whereas Love is much easier, so I'm planning on prioritizing that. I just want to be intentional about getting Dak when I can, because Dak is really good. I agree with you.
Led the league in touchdowns. He was quarterback 3. Their pass rates after the bye week was insane. With this running back crew, you got to think it's going to be the same. So it's just, that's why I'm at around 20%, and I intend to stay in that 20-25% Dak. I want to be around 20% Love. And so that's what's so hard to get to some of these other quarterbacks is I love Dak Purdy so much in that early 100 or 95 to like 115 area. And then you've got Lawrence in that area. So there's so many. I mean, I talked about on a show the other day about like just undervalued players. And it's just like all the quarterbacks feel undervalued this year. Quite honestly, the elites got pushed down and then that mid-tier got pushed down. And then you can get guys in, the last couple of rounds that I think are still viable clicks and stuff. So now before we look at our team, I interrupted you on the Jatavian Sanders. So my whole take on Jatavian Sanders really quick, right after draft, I was like, I'm not saying it's going to be Sam Laporta, but I think he has a Sam Laporta opportunity to just be tight end one on a team that, they need weapons. So that was my take. I have 30%. I've pumped the brakes a little, mainly because I do love the Underdog Network shows of Hayden Winks, Josh Norris, and Josh Norris had Tommy Tremble as like his like breakout candidate. I'm like, oh, well, that was my whole like thesis was nobody's ahead of him. I'm not scared of Tommy Tremble or Ian Thomas. And I hope I'm still right. And I'm still will, I'm sure, draft him. But I mean, I don't see him like rising up like Laporta did, even if he does get some camp steam. So you took him early too. You pumped the brakes. Why did you pump the brakes?
I mean, I saw the same stuff. And it's not like I love Hayden and Josh's stuff. I think they're super sharp. I don't just blindly follow, whatever somebody said. Like, I mean, I don't buy rankings. Like I have I play off of ADP and just kind of vibes. So,
I mean, I have rankings, but I usually just
have them. I've considered, there's some that I think are fairly affordable and more so to know like what the field is doing. Like if you buy like the ETR or the leg up rankings, I think those guys are all really sharp. And so then I can kind of get a pulse on, okay, these guys just updated their rankings. This guy is likely to rise as a result. I can adjust accordingly if I want to. I've considered doing that. I never have gotten around to it. The Sanders thing, I like you, and I saw your I know you did like that video where you talked about your favorite late tight ends.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for mentioning that. Yeah,
I did see that, and I saw that around the same time. And Jatavian Sanders, I've talked to people on Twitter about Jatavian Sanders, like about how I'm heavy in. I like Canales. I like that he was able to command targets at Texas, despite the fact that they had really good receiving options. So you have Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, and it didn't matter. He was still a guy that was a security blanket. And so all of that seemed. I don't really care about the RAS score. Like if Isaiah Likely had a really bad RAS score, and Isaiah Likely can run routes and get open, even though he's not super fast. So I think there's I kind of viewed him I don't know. I'm not a big ball knower, so maybe he's not similar to Likely, but I kind of viewed them in a similar way where it was like, knows how to get open, demands targets. When they're on the field, probably going to be pretty good. There's not much competition. I mean, Likely always has this competition. He's going in round 18. Seal's pretty good. Nobody in round 18 ever feels any good. Yeah. When he mentioned Tommy Tremble, and it made me reckon with the possibility that he might not see the field. And not that I am out on the profile or like the description that I just described. Right. But I did start to think like, okay, I'm in the 20s in percentages. It was higher for BBM than the 20s because he was my most owned BBM player at the time. It was probably around the time that video came out. It was probably about 30% in BBM. Yeah. It's like, okay, I should probably, if he's the guy I need, I am well situated. And I think I will learn more Panthers training camp starts next week. If he's running with the ones and there's some buzz that like it looks like he's going to be getting a lot of snaps this year or whatever, or there's really positive buzz around him, I will feel comfortable again and I can start drafting him again. That's how. And if he climbs, I already have my value. So if I want to take him in round 16 later because I still think he's a good pick, or 15 later, that's completely fine. Right. What I didn't want to do is mortgage my entire portfolio on a player that I could just have been completely wrong on in early draft season. So I, like you, decided it was best to slam the brakes. I did take him twice yesterday, where I felt like I've
taken him a couple times this week too, but I have pumped the brakes for the exact same reasons. It's like because we got so ahead on the exposure, we can pump the brakes. Yes. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, then it's like you said, you didn't mortgage the whole portfolio. And then if it does look good in camp, then we can just go back in, and it's not like the price is going to raise that insane. So yeah, at this point, I'll just wait for some more camp news and hope that I am right. Hope that he is running with the ones, or similar to the Laporta opportunity, just has that opportunity to be tight end one, has that opportunity to get usage. I know there was some on the Coach Speak Index. There was something about they have a very tight end friendly offense, and I know the reason I liked him so much too is he in the pre-draft process, because we do a lot of draft content or have our draft simulator and get rankings and stuff like that. By most experts, he was the second ranked tight end and prospect. It just happened to be that Washington likes Sinnott more, and that's fine. As a Washington fan, again, I'm trusting the process. Great, and I actually wanted. Maybe it's because I wanted Washington to draft Sanders, but I just don't think because he found the 4th round that necessarily means it's a donezo. He's dead, that kind of stuff. So that's for all those reasons. That's why I was so again, like he's got that Laporta opportunity, and I'm going to hope so. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm just going to wait now and see the camp news, basically.
Yeah, 100% with you. I don't watch a lot of college football. I do follow a lot of draft content because I've been a draft junkie for a long time. So
okay.
I like reading about it and learning about it, but I'm not out there watching college football every Saturday.
Right.
And I follow Dane Brugler. I read through the Beast. He was one of the folks that you mentioned who had Sanders as his number 2 tight end.
Yep.
I know it's a weaker tight end class than last year, but
sure.
he's good profile. Seemed to land in a place where there is it's the wide open highway as far as can you demand snaps. There's also nobody in that, like Deontay Johnson is fine. Adam Thielen is fine, but there's not there's just so many alphas that a rookie is not going to gain.
Right. That's why I liked it so much. Yeah.
I mean, it all sounded really pretty. The other benefit to both of us, if we want to paint this picture with some rose-colored glasses, he's going kind of undrafted right now.
Yeah, so he's going to be way under 100%.
So we're not really he's going to be under 100%. So that's good. And then also if we have to get back in on him, it's not like other people have been scooping value while he's been cold. He's just he's gone from a round 18 pick to a fringe end of round. The late round tight end stuff right now is really murky. I mean, I've been sniped on Parkinson more times than I can count this week, where I'm just he'll see the field, and then he goes at the beginning of round 18. And I don't think he has much upside at all. It is a wild time to be drafting late tight end, which maybe means that we should be targeting some earlier stuff. I know we found our way to 3.
I kind of right now I kind of like clicking the tight ends. If I don't get that elite, and I actually like the what we did today with the Kittle, or I like that kind of that Kincaid, Pitts, Kittle, that Ingram range of tight ends. And I usually just get 1 and then 1 late or 1 and 2 late like we did. But I'm still fine with the late round. I was very heavy on the late round tight end last year. I'm still fine with that, but it typically is earlier, and that's why I have 30% Conklin. But there's an article on fanspeak.com of 8 tight ends I'm targeting late. We talked about in the video, the strategy session video. But it was basically the Hunter Henry, Tyler Conklin, Jonnu Smith, Noah Fant, all those guys. I think they're Musgrave. They're late round tight ends in that 150 to kind of 200 range. And, no, they're not the last round or 2 necessarily, but you're getting such value on them that I think you could cobble 3 of those together for a decent floor ceiling.
I've wandered back in on Jawan Johnson.
Yes, Jawan Johnson was the other one on my list.
He was my highest owned tight end prior to him getting injured. Okay. And then he stopped getting drafted there for a little bit. And the reports have been fair. I mean, he went on the pup, I think, today, but reports have been favorable that he's going to come back.
Yeah, he should still be back early in the season. So in a 3 tight end build,
I might be a simpleton, but when I see he was TE1 for week 17 last year,
exactly, we're leaving him. Yeah,
better offensive coaching coming in New Orleans. I don't know. That seems to mean he could potentially be an impactful fantasy player. It's not, nothing about the New Orleans Saints is sexy. I think they're the worst run currently. I know there are a lot of teams in contention, but I think today if I had to pick a team I would not want to be a fan of based on how they're currently being run, I would pick that organization. Like, I think
I feel like they're kind of in a lame duck potential situation this year, but doesn't affect my thoughts on, Rashid Shaheed take a lot later, and Jawan Johnson. Like, I absolutely love that. And to get a discount on him now in a 3 tight end build, I don't mind that at all. Yep. Well, we could talk late round tight ends all day. I absolutely love it. Let me run down our team real quick, get your final thoughts on that, and then we can let you get on there and enjoy the rest of your Friday. Awesome. But we did a 2-6-7-3 from the 9 spot. Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, both stacked. Of course, we had our kind of anchor with Isaiah Pacheco, Ramondre Stevenson, Blake Corum, Kamani Vidal, Chuba Hubbard kind of protects that early season, and Audric Estime. Then AJ Brown, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, obviously stacked. Calvin Ridley, one of our just then never took them because I of all the other late round guys we mentioned, but it's good to mix it up. Good to mix up your portfolio. So no, I like this team. What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's good. Quarterback I think is fine. Caleb Williams has some rushing upside that doesn't get talked about, I don't think, too much because everybody expects him to chuck the ball, but I like bets on Caleb. I think I know you're only 3%. I think I'm at like 8. No,
I need to get more. I am a little cynical on rookie quarterbacks, but I need to be open to the rookies this year. I do see a path for especially Williams and Daniels, and I definitely need to get more. And I'm glad
you're lucky in that he has dropped. So he was going up around where Daniels was going initially. He's now about around later, sometimes the other end of the board, but I also have seen him fall to like the 120. So you can probably scoop some Caleb Williams value. The other fun thing about him is you basically just take one of his receivers, and if he happens to fall to you at a price that you like, you can take him.
Scoop it,
I think with the way the quarterback is getting so unpredictable, it's always good to have that optionality built in. So having a Bears receiver or a Texans receiver, opens you up to that. Herbert, great value, as we said. Looking at the running backs, got 2 presumptive bell cows, which is fun. We have some fun upside with Corum, Vidal, and maybe Estime down the line, and then Hubbard giving us some potential early season touches until hopefully one of those 3 guys finds their way into a regular role. Vidal is absolutely a mystery box at this point.
Yeah, and he's correlated too, if he does some pass catching work. And then Stevenson is correlated as a week 17 run back to the Chargers as well.
Love to see that. Vidal, I don't think any of us know what to feel about him. We're just so intrigued by that Chargers backfield that we want to take shots at it. So always good to see. So I think that's a sound running back room. And then receiver, we took advantage of some Jordan Addison value. We got you some additional Jalen Waddle exposure. I'm pretty high on Waddle. I think the single week upside is about as high as anybody in that round, so that's always fun.
No, I'm consciously going to get more Waddle. I definitely need more Waddle.
I'm with you in spirit on Calvin Ridley. I have a little bit less than you, but I think he's a good pick. He could easily be the round 1 or the wide receiver 1 there, and I like Will Levis. I also have a lot of the Andre Hopkins. I'm kind of playing both sides. Great Bateman value. Palmer's a fine pick there. He could be the wide receiver 1 in the Chargers, which we needed by getting him, that opened us up to Herbert, which was good because Tua got taken early. So we missed out on a guy we would have had, but we put ourselves in a position to be successful anyway.
Right.
And then, Kittle is great value in that round. He could easily be as good as any of the tight ends that go before him.
Exactly.
I probably think that Laporta's the most likely to be consistent just because he proved that he gets targets with ease pretty much in that offense. And Kelsey has the age concerns, but beyond that, Kittle could easily be in there. We're kind of betting on some other potential higher target shares with Pitts or with Kincaid or with Andrews. But Kittle has just the upside that any of those guys have, and you get him around later, so that's always fun. I think it's wild that this is your first Senate chair. However, you got to completely avoid the bull Senate market where he was
totally. I wrote multiple articles about why I was fading him early, so I just stuck to my guns there. So
so you get him at 208, which if you have to take a share of a guy you don't like, you might as well take him at the end of the draft.
In the very last round. Exactly.
Love to see it.
Love it. Love it. No, I like this team a lot. It's fun. I like this team a lot. It's got a good mix, of kind of, young and some steady eddies, and but got some like rookie upside, got some exposure to some guys I need more of, like especially Waddle and DJ Moore. And so guys like, of course, I don't have like Sinnott and stuff like that, but no, I like this team a lot. I'm excited about it. So yeah, no, this was fun. We'll definitely have to bring you back for some more streams later this summer. I think we're going to be doing a live stream, like a long live, like 12-hour live stream, August 23rd. There are going to be a lot of giveaway announcements soon here on the Fanspeak network. Again, as you see in the ticker, we've been using Best Ball Overlay. So I use that. It's $10 off a month, just then $20 a month, less than a BBM if you use code Fanspeak. And of course, like this episode, subscribe to Fanspeak Network and check out all of our content over on fanspeak.com, because we have free written content. So that's always fun. And shout out to the guy that said my hair looks good. I do appreciate that. So any final thoughts, Jim, before we get on out of here?
No, I'm all good. I think we had a great draft. Thanks for having me on. Definitely happy to come on again. Love to see more content coming out of the Baltimore area. And, I've toyed with the idea of streaming drafts and never gotten around to it. So I always love coming on and talking shop with.
Well, you're always great on Neil's stream. You were great on this stream. So you got to get more invites. And we definitely want to have you back. So
I'm working on it. But thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to coming on again soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure to like this episode, and we'll have a full set of content again next week. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.